Welcome to Empowerment Series Episode 4, and with Pastor Eric. I believe that you have enjoyed your week and it's going very well. Tonight, I'm very excited to welcome you to the 4th episode, and it's going to be very awesome, and it's going to be very empowering, engaging, exciting, and enlightening. The scriptures have said that wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our times. And I believe that in these days, we really need wisdom and knowledge to be able to live. The Bible says in 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32, that the sons of Issachar had understanding into the times and seasons. And because they had understanding, they knew what to do. Our world has changed dramatically in the last 5 months. And things have really changed. All of us are all at the mercy of what has happened. But however, as Christians, as Christian career people, as Christian business people, we need to take advantage of the season we are in to be able to take what steps that will change our lives for the better. For us in Open Heavens Temple, May has been our month of empowerment and also our month to empower Christian businesses and career people. Today we are very blessed to have a very astute man of God, a double-edged sword. I call him a double-edged sword because somebody who is in ministry and who is in a corporate world, Reverend Daniel Ogbarmey Tetteh, for us to have a conversation. So we are going to have a conversation of dynamics of creating wealth for Christian businesses and individuals beyond COVID-19 era. And Reverend Ogbarmey Tetteh, welcome tonight. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I just want to read the profile of Reverend Ogbarmey so that we can know who we are dealing with tonight. Reverend Daniel Ogbarmey Tetteh is an alumnus and former lecturer of the University of Ghana Business School. He's currently the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. I guess he's in his office right now. Reverend Daniel Ogbarmey Tetteh has over 20 years experience in investment banking and has been an executive director and the head of Data Bank Asset Management Services Limited, the DAMCEL. Prior to assumption of leadership of DAMCEL, he was the head of Data Bank Research. He has lectured in marketing at the University of Ogbarmey Tetteh holds a BSc in Administration, First Class Honors, and an MBA in Marketing from the University of Ghana, and also holds a postgraduate diploma in Corporate Finance and Management from Sorbonne University, France, an honorary doctorate in market management. Tonight, wherever you are, I want to welcome you to this great conversation from this great man of God and also a very astute corporate person. Reverend Ogbarmey, welcome to tonight's session.
Thank you very much, Pastor Eric. It's a pleasure and a blessing to be able to be part of the Empowerment Series.
Hallelujah. So,
amen.
I want to go straight into our questions. It is said that COVID-19 has been disruptive. How disruptive has it been in the business front?
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Eric. Clearly, like you said, the first 5 months of this year has represented a very significant change in the way everything has been conducted, and the business front hasn't been exempted. With the lockdowns and then the restriction and movement, you've seen that economic activity has effectively slowed down. Now, if you look at it from the standpoint that the income that one economic actor earns influences the revenue, if you like, of a business, you can clearly see that whenever there's a loss of income, businesses can be impacted. So with COVID-19, you can see that the impact has been quite extensive. Indeed, some sectors, like if you take the hospitality or the travel or tourism, even petroleum, some sectors clearly have been directly hit by COVID-19, while others have been indirectly hit by drop in patronage or drop in effective demand and so on and so forth. So in many ways, COVID-19 has been very disruptive. Plans of various businesses, to expand, for instance, have been put on hold. Plans to expand market share has had to be shelved. There are some entities who, for instance, were prosecuting an agenda to internationalize their operations. It has had to be put on hold in a certain sense. So clearly, COVID-19 has been very, very disruptive, and I guess it's calling on everyone, especially in the corporate arena, to take another look at the business model or how business is conducted. And as many people have been saying in these times, we seem to be in a new normal, in a sense that certain new ways of doing or going about our business appears to now become a norm. And I think it behoves on those who are in business to understand the dynamics of the new norm, how they can conduct their businesses effectively going forward. So yes, COVID-19, I can say, has been very disruptive. But I guess the issue is, within this disruption, can we see any opportunities? Are there some things that we can do? I personally believe that anytime there's some adversity or some difficulty or some challenge, if you look hard enough, you could see some window of opportunity. So yes, it's been disruptive. We can't be in denial, but the question is, what can we do? Do we have to stop our businesses, or what do we have to do? And I think having this conversation is good, because it will, one, encourage people to know that yes, it's been disruptive, but what can you do, or what are your options, or what are some of the considerations that you must have if you're looking to continue to build a business?
All right. There's a lettering in Chinese that the word crisis, in crisis, there are two letters they put together, is opportunity and danger. So like you said, though there's a lot of challenges now, there's also opportunity. The scriptures say that all things work together for good for them who are called according to the purpose of God. So I believe that though there's a distraction, there's also a light. For me, I think that, like you said, it's a time for the new normal, and it's making us think out of the box. It's making us think and stretch ourselves into areas we've never thought about. Now, is there anything like Christian businesses?
I believe that, let me just start from, let me attempt a definition of business. You can see business as any activity that involves making money by selling, producing or buying and selling of goods and services. So essentially, business, you are talking about, entering into some activity to make some money or to make some profit. Now, I know that every business thrives on a mission. The mission of a business defines why the business is existent, the reason for its existence, and then also the vision of that business. That is where that business is headed. The goal of that enterprise, that business. So you talk about mission, and then you talk about vision. But another important element of businesses is values. Value. That is what drives the operations or the activities of the business. So in my view, when I talk, or when we think about Christian business, I believe we are talking about a business that is driven by Christian values. So the mission has to be there, the reason for your being, the vision has to be there. That is where you are headed with your business. But importantly, I believe that the values that you have, provided that they are Christian values, I believe that that qualifies your operation or your organization or your business as a Christian business. So that's how I see Christian businesses. In other words, a Christian business would subscribe only to Christian values.
Yeah.
He or she, whoever is managing or running that Christian business, will not go into things or not be influenced by values which are contrary to the tenets of the Christian faith. So that's my view. Yes, there's Christian business, and Christian business to me is businesses that are driven by Christian values.
I think that was the question I was going to ask you. That so, can we maybe mention one or two values that you think that Christian businesses should be run by?
Okay, so for instance, if you take integrity, and integrity, I believe is a Christian value, but I know there are other people who subscribe to it as well. So, for instance, when you talk about integrity, one of the things that will come to my mind is you must mean what you say. So, for instance, if you promise your customer, whether it's a product that you're offering or it's a service, if you promise your customer that the product or the service will perform in a particular way or will solve a particular problem, that product or that service must have that integrity to solve or to be consistent with the value that you have projected that product or service to have. Now, I am sure that a lot of people have, let's say, patronized either some product or some service that has disappointed. It hasn't performed the way that those who sold that product or service said it would perform. So an example is, integrity, making sure that whatever product or service you put out there, it has integrity. In other words, it speaks and it conforms to the promise that you have already put out there, whether in an advert or in a promotion about that particular value. So integrity is one. You can also talk about the value of respect. Where you accord respect to those who patronize your products or your service, because if you look throughout the Bible, you find it very clear that we are not supposed to look down on other people, and we are to give or accord people respect, not to discriminate in the way we react with people. So I can cite respect as another Christian value that can drive the operations of a Christian business. And of course, I mean the value of faith in God. You'll find that for a Christian business, the recognition will be there that God is a partner in that business, and so the business will basically be positioned to do the thing that will bring glory to God. So for me, it's really about making sure that the values that the Bible teaches is what drives your business, and I think that will qualify the business you are running as a Christian business. So if you're a Christian and you are using some other values to run your business, like some people believe that the end justifies the means, so they will do all kinds of things. Then you may be a Christian, but you are not entirely allowing Christian values to drive your business. So for me, it's not about the one running the business, as in the MD or the majority shareholder being a Christian, but it's more of allowing Christian values to dictate how the business is run, whether it has to do with recruitment, procurement, all the business processes that any business would, have to go through. Let the Christian values influence how things are done. I think that is what, to me, Christian business is all about.
That means that a Christian business should stand out very well from other businesses in terms of the areas of integrity, respect, faith in God, and service, and all that. Now I want to find out, during this the COVID-19 era, have the dynamics for starting business and operating business changed for Christian businesses, for that matter?
Well, what I would say is that the dynamics have not changed in essence, even though probably the way in which businesses are run has to change in a certain sense. But when you talk about a business, a fundamental requirement is that business must exist to provide a solution or to solve a problem. And I have always maintained that businesses come out of adversities or problems or difficulties. To the extent that you can come up with a solution to a need or a problem, you have a business. And you'll find that almost every business you can think about that is thriving today, you can trace it to that business positioning itself to fill a need, to solve a problem, to become a solution. So, that is fundamental. In other words, if you want to start a business today, you must look for a problem that you would solve. So that is fundamental. But I guess with COVID-19, the question will be, how do you go about to solve that problem, given the dynamics of how now people move and how people would want to, spend their monies and their time and all of that. So, the expression or the way in which you solve the problem, you have to look at the reality of the new norm and see how you can, as it were, serve or solve that need or solve that problem. But fundamentally, a business must solve a problem. Another thing about businesses is because sometimes there are some problems that already have solutions, but then there can be what we call a value add. So if I use the example of producing agricultural products, that is fine, but you can add some value when you process them further. So businesses also can thrive not just on solving problems, but adding value to maybe an existing solution that there is. And indeed, if you talk about communication, for instance, we all know, that if you take telephones, for instance, there has been value add, from the landlines that we were used to, or the rotary phones, to the digital phones and telephones, and now we have the mobile phones and smartphones. So you find that there's value addition. Yeah. So businesses, the starting point is, what problem exists to be solved. So if you can identify some problems around you, you're on your way to having a business. But not only problems that remain unsolved, but solutions to problems can also be enhanced, or you can add value to the solutions that are there. I'm sure we all remember the example of a Cocoa King, and I think these days we are seeing a lot more people going into packaging of various products. But basically, you can also add value to an existing solution, and that will also represent a business. So in terms of whether things have changed, the fundamental basis that can help an individual to start or build a business hasn't changed. Needs are still there, and needs require solutions, and solutions can also be improved. Okay, and sometimes the value add can even be providing a distribution channel,
Yeah.
because you might find a situation where there are people who may have some good products, but then there's an issue with how to reach the people who need the products or the service. So the fundamental drivers of businesses, to me, they haven't changed. The needs are there, solutions are needed, solutions can be enhanced, and so on and so forth. But probably we need to understand the shifts that has been occasioned by this COVID-19. You find that now, there seems to be a shift to online activity. So people are now, because of course, the restriction in movement or concern about moving out and then, endangering or exposing yourself to, this coronavirus. So the issue of online access to various products or services online is becoming more appealing. So I think the key thing is to observe the shifts that have taken place or are taking place on account of the COVID-19. Once you observe and you understand, then as you're thinking about solving the problem or adding value to an existing solution that there is, you want to situate it within the dynamics of the shifts in the environment. And I think that is what it is. So the fundamental drivers remain the same, but the way and manner, that we go about solving the problems, we need to understand the shifts and then adapt or adjust our operations accordingly.
Yeah. I think last year we had the opportunity of you coming to be a blessing to us in our local church, but here I am in the same church you came to preach, but I'm talking to you in the office because of the COVID-19 and the fact that we are still able to do the same thing but in a different way. So now, how do we position our businesses for growth in such an environment? Because I noticed, like you said, a lot of online things are going on, and how do businesses position themselves that they can go, they can grow? Because I know a lot of people are complaining that everything is slow, things are not working well. But I think that you gave us a leeway that a lot of marketing is going on online. How can we? That may be one aspect. But how do we position ourselves as Christian entrepreneurs that our businesses can grow beyond in this season and beyond, because we must now readjust ourselves to the new normal? So,
not change. COVID-19 or whatever thing will come on the scene is the principle of value for money. Value for money. In the sense that anyone would want to part with money only if he or she is convinced that in parting with the money, he's getting value for it. I think that that will not change. I'm almost tempted, to quote Genesis. What's the verse? I can't remember now. Where God said, "As long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest time." I think somewhere in Genesis 8 or 6 or something. Yeah.
8,
But I believe that value for money will continue to be an important determinant of who patronizes your product or your service. At the end of the day, you must convince yourself that I'm getting value for the money that I am parting with. So I think that Christian entrepreneurs, and indeed, all entrepreneurs, but of course, we are speaking to a Christian target market. But I believe that Christian entrepreneurs, one of the ways to position their businesses for growth is to ensure that they are still giving value for money. It shouldn't be that you expect people to patronize your product because you go to the same church with them.
Yeah.
I think that is an error. Because we are in the same church. Yes, I understand that in certain groupings, they encourage, each other when they start businesses and all of that. There is that. But I think that if you think that, oh, I will get people to patronize me because of that association, I don't think that you'll be doing your business a lot of good. You must think about value for money and think beyond your immediate environs. I know there's talk about thinking global, but acting local, in the sense that even though you're operating within a certain local environment, think of the global landscape. Because and look at even this COVID-19. It started somewhere, according to what we've been made to understand, somewhere in Wuhan, in China. But look at how it has spread throughout the whole world. So we have a global situation now. So act locally, but think globally. So think of how whatever product or service you have, how valuable it will be not only to your local patrons, but your potential global patrons, whether you know them or not, whether you see them or not. You need to avert your mind to the fact that people will always want value for money. So for me, one of the key things that I want to strongly recommend for Christian entrepreneurs is always to think of what value they are bringing to the table and what value they are offering to their patrons. And related to that is another concept which I picked up many years ago when I was growing up in business school and all of that. And that is to under-promise but over-deliver.
Okay.
To under-promise but over-deliver. In other words, it's better, when you, when you talk about under-promise, when people are advertising or promoting a product or service, they may give a lot of attributes to it and so on and so forth. But I think the principle is that while you must position your product well, let people know what it can do, over deliver rather than over promise and then under deliver.
Yeah.
Under promise and over deliver. I think these are some very important principles that Christian businesses must always remember if they want to position themselves for growth. What I also want to quickly add is that giving the shift to a lot of online or e-based activity, it's important for Christian businesses also to avert their minds to ICT driven solutions, or to invest in ICT solutions. Because, given where we are and the fact that, people are becoming used to the norm of doing a lot of their activities online. Of course, I know that there are some services or some products that you require an in-person experience, but quite a lot of things you can get online. So I think it's important for Christian businesses to invest in the ICT related solutions or platforms, both in terms of investing in knowledge in that, as well as investing in the kind of softwares or resources that will enable you to ride on ICT to reach your target market. So for me, these are three things that I want to suggest in terms of positioning your business, your Christian business, for growth. Remember the principle of value for money, that you can't compromise on. And then position yourself to under promise but over deliver. Under promise but over deliver. And then the final one is, especially with this new norm, you can't be out of the ICT space. Invest both in knowledge as well as whatever software, hardware, whatever you need to be able to use ICT to push your business ideas or your business solutions. So these would be my responses to what Christian businesses can do to position themselves for growth.
Yeah, I think I had an experience somewhere last week, or about a couple of weeks ago. I went into a shop trying to buy something, and I'm a type of person that don't carry cash around. And I noticed that they didn't have a POS system, a machine, a payment system. Meanwhile, the kind of business they do, they could have reaped close to 1,000 plus from me, but they don't. They charge. No, it's very necessary for now, because the time where people carry money around. So whatever service you are delivering, you must do. I remember I saw a video of a madman begging money, and the man said he hasn't got money. Then he showed him a POS machine that, look, if you don't have money, at least have a POS machine for you to.
That's an interesting one.
So it's very important. I think you say we should value for money, which is very important. We should think global, although we are acting local. We must always under promise and over deliver, and ICT solution. This is very insightful. So now, what must change in this era for businesses, for businessmen? What must change? What must really change in terms of our thinking? What must really change? Our practices, what must change?
Yeah. I think one of the things that is coming up strongly, and it's again becoming a part of the new norm, is the notion of WFH, that's working from home. I think that it's important for businesses to be set up, to be able to work or to let their employees or their staff be able to work from anywhere. I mean, of course, the term is work from home, WFH. So I think that it's important, because if you have to keep your staff and pay them, and your organization is not set up, to work from, to allow employees to work from home, you'll find that you could miss out on opportunity, because life must go on. And there are some things that will have to keep on happening. So it's critical to let businesses set up in such a way that they can work remotely or work from home. I think that that is key. And another thing I want to mention here has to do with how we engage with, let's say, our target market or our stakeholders. How we engage. I think again, we cannot stay with the in-person contact. The person-to-person contact. We must be able to ride again on technology to be able to engage seamlessly with the various stakeholders or target audience that we have. I mean, the holding of meetings doesn't have to only be in a physical place or a physical location. So I think that it's important for businesses to look at the practices or the various activities or their operational manuals, for instance, and be able to tweak it to allow more flexibility or agility. If you are not set up to be agile, you find that when you are hit by something like a COVID-19, your response rate would be very slow and you could miss out on opportunities. So I think that it's important for businesses to inject some degree of flexibility or agility in how they are set up to operate. It will mean taking a look at operational manuals and seeing how that can be tweaked in such a way to make the organization more nimble to respond to any changes that may take us by surprise. I mean, the way COVID-19 has, taken the whole world by surprise. So those are my thoughts. Look at how you operate your businesses. Some things have come up, the concept of working remotely or working from home, and how you engage with your target market and or your various stakeholders. Those are things that we need to look at. But for me, the bottom line or the underlying factor is how to inject flexibility and make things more nimble so the organization can respond and can still operate irrespective of the challenges that may surface in its operating environment.
Okay. Thank you very much. So are there any do's and don'ts that we must be conscious of in terms of
for me,
the new normal?
Yes, I mean, for me, I think one of the do's, and which, you can say do's or don't stop, is that every business, don't stop evaluating your business model. I think that is key. And to me, it is key to, for instance, innovation. I think there is a book, Innovate or Die. I can't remember who the author is, but it's important to always evaluate your business model and get a sense of whether the model it can survive the test of time. As I'm making this point, I'm remembering Kodak, and I'm sure Pastor Eric, you remember Kodak. Kodak was so big.
Yeah, you take it
exactly. It was so big. Exactly, so big. Back in the day. Where is Kodak today? Where is Kodak today? So, and even if you take the mobile phone, I think again when we had mobile phones coming, out. If somebody had a Nokia, I think was it Nokia 310 or 3310? I can't remember.
3310, the popular 3310,
yeah, the popular 3310. But where is Nokia today? No. So it's important to. I mean, so for me, one of the things that businesses should continue doing or shouldn't stop doing is evaluating the business model and trying to establish whether it can stand the test of time. So that for me, I mean, if I even make just that point, I think that is fine, because when you do an evaluation of your business model, it will help you to know whether there are changes that are taking place in your environment that you need to respond to. So if you fail to do so, before you realize, the bus has left the station, and you've been left stranded. So evaluating your business model is important. Let me just mention one other thing that I think businesses should do. I've already talked about investing in ICT, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But I think one of the things to me that businesses should begin to do, if they are not already doing that, is to make sure that they build reserves. Build reserves. Now, I'm saying this because, with the onset of this COVID-19 and the fact that there was this economic slowdown and businesses were not making the kind of money that they were making and all of that, in some cases, they had to even consider salary cuts and so on and so forth. Okay, so I think the concept of building reserves shouldn't be limited only to individuals or families. Indeed, the example about building reserves that we find in the Bible, this is Joseph when Pharaoh had a dream. It refers to a nation, So I think one of the things that I want to strongly recommend for Christian businesses to do is to build reserves. Build reserves. So aside what I've said about evaluating your business model, investing in ICT, focusing on growing your market share or your business, I think one of the things that Christian businesses should do is to build reserves so that when the lean season comes, and in life, lean seasons can come, you can still use your reserve to still take care of the business, take care of the employees or those who are working for you, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that I would strongly recommend for businesses to do is build reserves. So when profits are made, you don't need to distribute all the profits to shareholders. Build reserves so that in the lean season or in the difficult period, it can tide you over.
Okay. So now I want to just, we have had challenges in how somebody like building reserves, but we've had challenges with some of the financial institutions that people normally go and try to save some money. And in the last 3 years, you are into that yourself, the Securities and Exchange Commission. So I say, what are the safe channels for us to save money these days? Maybe if you can go back there and give us an idea, because now most people invested, trusted places they could have put some money every month or some put their business, but now all kinds of things has happened. And the popular one, which I don't want to mention, is the men's gold issue. So I know it's a sensitive thing for you anyway, but maybe you have to.
Oh, no, but not at all. I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay, so maybe you can talk about that now, because a lot of people are falling victim to that. So businesses, people sold property, people took loans and went and put into something. So can you guide us onto the safe areas now, looking at the situation we are in, projecting into the future, where people can build reserves, so that because when you have money in your savings account and a family member comes and say that he wants school fees to be paid, but when you put it into something that is locked for a couple of months or years, it's restrict your spending. So maybe can you help us with that?
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Eric. When you talk about a safe place to invest, I think people must understand something that I read many years ago, and which I agree. Someone said that life is full of risk, and it's riskier if you don't take risk. For the simple reason that there's risk everywhere. So really, you need to be asking yourself, before you get into investing your savings, you need to be asking yourself this pertinent question: how much risk can I tolerate? How much risk can I take? Because there's always a degree of risk, with any investment that you will do. So once you understand how much risk you can take, that would guide you. Let me give an example, Pastor Eric, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
When you take investing in shares, for instance, investing in shares,
Yeah.
the experts will tell you that investing in shares can be risky. It can be risky because the price can go up, the price can drop,
Yeah.
or the price can mark time. Okay. But the same experts will tell you that in the long run, after many years, the returns that you will get from shares is very, very appealing. Okay. So when you take, let's say, a young person who generally has maybe someone in his 20s, who has, all things being equal, a lot more years on earth, that person may be able to invest, let's say, in shares or an equity-based investment, because one, he has a risk. I mean, he's young, he has many more working years, many more years to earn income, and so on and so forth. Whereas, let's say, someone who is, let's say, 55 or coming close to retirement, your chances or opportunities for working to make money is limited. You have some savings. You will not be able to expose the savings to risk, or a lot of risk, because of where you are.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by it's important, before you begin the journey of investing, to understand how much risk you can take. That, for me, that is fundamental. Indeed, I normally will talk about your investment objectives, or how much time you have. All those things are important, but because we are talking about safety, I'm bringing out the fact that you must be clear how much risk you can take. Then you must also understand that the higher the return, the higher the risk. And if the risk is high, then, if I'm using the term you use, safety, then it means that the safety level is low. Okay. Now, what I think the mistake many people do is that they go chasing returns. They're looking for where they can get the best returns. So they keep asking, oh, how much are these people offering, or how much can I get here? So when they are chasing returns, they lose sight of the fact that high returns also goes with high risk. Okay, so you have to have that understanding that if you are chasing high returns, then you're also going for high risk. It means that you are exposing yourself, and so the safety level drops. And Pastor Eric, let me quickly say that, please, if anybody promises you a high return and says that there is no risk, please look for the exit, because it is a sure recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Anytime anyone promises you high return and says that this one sure banker, no sweat, no risk, you please look for the exit and run with your money and run with your life. Okay, so these are some things that we must understand. But clearly, people are still investing and people are still making money, and they would have done this. What I would say is that look out for some things. So, for instance, before you go to any before you sign on the dotted line, before you invest your savings, find out some more, put in some effort. This is about your life. I mean, there's a saying that sikaya moja, so money is life. I mean, it's blood. It's important. So don't just take your money somewhere without doing some small due diligence. Okay, we are not asking you to do anything extensive. Just find out. For instance, is that entity a licensed entity? Is it licensed by any of the regulators? Because you have to understand that financial matters is regulated activity. So it's not like selling tomatoes. Anybody can just get up and sell financial products. So find out the status of its license. That's one. And then also the product that is being sold to you, find out whether that product is also licensed, because it is not impossible to have a situation where there's a licensed operator who will be selling a product that is unlicensed or hasn't been sanctioned by the regulators. Okay, so it's also important to find out, not just whether the entity is licensed or the license is valid, but whether the whatever product or service is being offered is also licensed or it has been sanctioned by the regulator. Then it's also important, if possible, for you to understand who is running the business. Or, I mean, if I say who is running, let's say, what kind of corporate governance culture do we have? Now, when we say corporate governance, we're not talking about anything complex. So we are saying that who is on the board of this entity, for instance? Is it friends and family, or they have some independent directors on the board? Some of this information you may be able to find it on the website of such firms. So understand, the kind of corporate governance that the entity has. See if you can get an idea of those who are actually running the day-to-day operations of the entity in terms of the organization. How competent are they? How qualified are they? It will give you an idea. And if you also want to find out what track record they have. Now, you may be able to get some of this information by visiting, let's say, the website of one regulator or the other. I mean, if I can talk about the SEC, we are even looking at how to enhance the information on our licensees, so that when you come to the website, you can get a better sense of how the licensees are. Because the fact that a licensee has a valid license doesn't necessarily mean that it will be selling you the right product. But let me add, before I end, for you to maybe ask your last question, let me add that there's something that Warren Buffett says. He says that Warren Buffett is one of the celebrated investors in the world. He's made wealth, through investment. He says that he doesn't invest in something he doesn't understand. Okay, so my point here is that before you invest your savings in a particular product, please ask yourself whether you understand the product and understand how it works. So without giving an example, if someone says to you that I'm going to give you maybe 10% per month or 20% per month, that in a year, adds up to so much. The question is, what is it that the person is doing that is going to earn him so much for him to be able to pay you so much? So you must ask yourself whether you understand the product and how the product works. And I'm not talking about having technical understanding or technical knowledge about it, but just to, from a layman's point of view, you must have an appreciation of how that product, works. Because when you have that understanding, then it gives you comfort. You know how you're going to get your return. I mean, I think the mistake many people make when it comes to investing, they don't try to understand that they may just listen to a friend who may have had an experience with a particular service provider. Say, oh, when I went there, they took good care of me, so I'm happy. But do not only rely on the testimony of, let's say, a friend or a relative. Try and understand, and if you don't understand, you may be better advised to hold off before you commit, only to say, had I known, because as that proverb says, had I known is always at last. So that is what I would say. Sometimes people will even tell you that, when you look at the lifestyle of the people running
Entity,
business, that entity, if it's a very flamboyant lifestyle, you need to start asking questions. How much are they earning from whatever fees they are making to be able to fund or finance a very flamboyant lifestyle. I think these are some things that if we can avert our minds to, it will help to guide us to invest our money without getting disappointed. But I mean, the fact remains that as for risk, it's here with us. It's not going to go away, and every investment has a degree of risk. So you just need to understand what the risk return dynamics are, how much risk you can tolerate. Do a little due diligence, and you'll be on your way. I can tell you that even in this COVID-19, I was doing a little survey of some of the fund managers, and I was pleased to note that there are people who are investing, they are putting money aside. And so I think that, there are opportunities to put your money to work, because money is a potential employee. So let not people say that, hey, I don't want to go near investing or because of what has happened. I think it's just about being more prepared, asking more questions, informing your decision by getting information. I think that's what it is. But in terms of the safety, because of the risk, the difference in risk tolerance, it will vary from person to person. I mean, at my age, you may not get me investing heavily in high risk instruments. It's understandable, but I would expect my son or my children to be able to do so, because all things being equal, the number of years I have compared to their own,
it's true. It's
not equal.
It's very true. So I think that the key thing is that before you make an investment, you must do your due diligence yourself. Look at the instrument you are investing, know what is going on there. And one of the cautions is that look at the lifestyles of the people. Look at the directors on the board and their lifestyles and what they
Absolutely.
very important. So I realize that most people invest in such instruments which are very funny because of a recommendation of a friend or something, and they literally do that. All right. I want to just ask this question. What do you share the view that Christian businesses should pay tithe, and why?
I do. I'm a strong believer in what the Bible says, that a man can receive nothing except it be given him from above. Jesus Christ himself said that. And if you go to the book of Deuteronomy, God talks about how he will teach us or give us the power to get wealth. I think that if you are running your business, the idea that you had to set up the business to solve a problem, to provide a solution, to add value, the source is really from God. And when you tithe, you are basically honoring God. You are recognizing the fact that you are a steward of his grace. Because, what do you have that you didn't receive? The idea, the people you work with, the market share. Yes, you would have put in effort, hard work, and all of that. But where did you get all that from? A man can receive nothing except it be given him from above. So I strongly believe that it's it's okay for Christian businesses to tithe. I think for me, it means that you are recognizing that God is a partner in your business. You are honoring Him for, for the way He's enabled you to build that business and to grow it. So I think it's all right. And I mean, the concept of tithing is not an old covenant, practice, as some people would want us to believe. As I'm sure, Pastor Eric, tithe preceded, the law of Moses. And if you go to if you come to the New Testament, Jesus endorsed tithing as well. So I think it's okay. I'm a believer in the fact that Christian businesses should be able to pay their tithe to God, and I'm sure that when they do that, they would see. I mean, as they glorify God, I mean, they would see more growth and more beauty in their businesses.
Thank you. So, what would be the last words for Christian entrepreneurs in this season?
Fear not.
I like that.
I think that, Pastor Eric, there's this verse, I can't remember where it is, but it says that, I think it's in Romans, or there, but Paul, I think, was saying that where sin abounds, grace abounds the more. Okay. Yeah. So just drawing from that principle, where there are challenges or where there are difficulties, I believe that opportunities also abound. Okay, so this is not a time to throw a pity party. This is not a time to, just, bow your head in despair and all of that. I think that let's know that with God, we can do all things. So let's spend the time evaluating our business models. Let's look at how we can create multiple income streams. Let's look at how we can begin small, and as we apply ourselves, grow. Maybe you've lost your business as a result of COVID because your sector or where you operate has been directly hit. It's about time to take another look at what else can I do. Okay, what other opportunity can I begin to apply myself in? And my last piece of advice is that please remember, child of God, Christian entrepreneur, Bible believing businessman, ask yourself that what do I have in my hand? Wow. Rather than what don't I have in my hand. I think one of the challenges that many people take themselves into, that they focus on what they don't have rather than what they have. But I think that if we can begin to look at what we have, what problem do you have, what skill do you have, what ability do you have, what do you have in your hand, and put value on it and begin to release it, leverage it, it will take you far. So I just to encourage the Christian businessman that we need to create wealth for the kingdom's sake, to build the kingdom, to fund the gospel and all of that. And business is how to do it. You make money from business. So if you have been badly hit by COVID-19, it's not over. Pick yourself up, look around you, look at what you have in your hand, not what you don't have in your hand, and trust God. He will make a way.
Thank you for that word. I think it comes to the scripture, 2 Kings chapter 4, when the widow said that I only have a jar of oil. And that jar of oil was what the prophetic came upon, and it turned around to become a blessing to the widow and his two sons.
Absolutely.
I believe that this last Sunday, our general overseer preached a sermon on place it in Jesus' hand, about the 5 loaves of bread and the 3 fishes, and how God multiplied the 5 loaves and the 3 fishes. So every businessman listening to us today, don't give up. Like the man of God have said, what do you have in your hand? There's something that you still have. You may have lost money, you may have lost something, but there's something you still have in your hand, and place it in the hands of Jesus, and the multiplication will take place. Thank you so much Reverend Daniel Ogbarmey Tetteh, for making time. We've kept you in the office beyond your closing time, but we are
No
privileged that you are
problem.
just a great blessing to you. The Lord bless you.
No
God
problem.
bless you. Let's give a
Thank you
big
for the
hand clap.
opportunity as
All
well.
right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.